Go ahead and bring us up. All right. Welcome. Introduce yourself.
Thank you. Adam McKinney, Chief Technical Officer. I brought the IT and the 911 budgets with me. We can start with the IT budget if that's okay.
Yes.
What page are we on?
16.
60?
16.
16? Okay.
I have one correction I'd like to make to this budget that we weren't sure what direction we were going to go in at the beginning when I submitted this. We have one extra line of salary in there. I have determined I do not need to replace that position. I do not need that extra line of salary. So the line for John Stewart, originally when I submitted this, I talked about possibly hiring another entry-level technician. I have decided I don't need that position, so I do not need that line in there. With Derek coming on board to replace John, I don't plan to use John's salary to
Excuse me a
replace him.
second.
Yeah.
Should we be talking about people in this meeting?
I think in the aspect of what he just said, we're not.
But we can
too far
refer to the
details.
position.
Oh,
We can.
I
Yeah.
apologize.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
so for the senior programmer system analyst, that position has been replaced by the senior systems analyst for public safety. And I had originally thought I would use that salary line to replace it with another grade 9 position, but I'm not gonna need it. So that position I'd like to just eliminate completely on the A line.
And that position will be going away this fiscal year.
Yes,
So it just,
Yes.
there'll be some leftover monies there too.
correct. That position is retiring as of before the end of this fiscal year, yes. Okay, that's the only correction I had on there. Going down through the list, I did merge a couple lines as we've been doing the last couple years. That 420 line, we merged that last year with 422. This year, I merged line 43200. I merged that one into that 424 line for operating supplies. That was one that we had separate for maintenance of office equipment, and we usually use that for fixing printers and things. I moved that into the operating supplies line because it just kind of goes together, makes it a little bit easier. I kept that 422 line at 10,000. That one has been kind of our catch-all fund for things that come up in the year for consumables, keyboards, mice, monitors, cabling, for projects that we end up working on, things that we do. That seems to be a really good line there. Yeah.
Sorry, have you talked to Dan Kendall about like power cords, power strips? So when we did the
fire
inspection, and then there was a handful of things that weren't plugged in where they were supposed to be, he talked about maybe trying to do some different power strips or something like
Yes.
that. Would that fit more in your budget or his budget? And if so, would you have room to absorb it?
So at the moment, we've been kind of splitting it because a lot of stuff, if we put one of those universal or uninterruptible power supplies there, they come out of my budget. I know Dan bought a few for the fire safety stuff that we changed out. We paid for some, he paid for some, just depending on where they went. I'm happy to absorb that, and that's what that $10,000 line is really for. That's usually exactly where that kind of stuff comes out of. Those eventually go bad, or as you see, sometimes you get one and plugged into a long one and then a short one. And yeah, so we've eliminated that, but I'm happy to take that in there.
Okay,
and I don't even actually think that we need to raise that.
Okay, that's all I was.
I don't think we need to raise it. Those are pretty reasonably priced, so. Hostesses and luncheons, I kept that at 150. Freight, I've left this one in there. We've almost not used that the last few years. We've used it like once in the last 4 or 5 years, but I left that in there just in case. Sometimes we do have to ship things back. The computer maintenance, we reduced that one last year from 27.5 to 20,000, right on there. So I'm leaving that one at 20,000. As we've eliminated some of the programs that we use, we no longer have to pay maintenance for them, so we've left that. Software support, that normally is my big increase, but because of some changes that we did with CityWorks and Tyler, and we're planning to replace our Sophos with a new product called Sentinel One. I actually was able to decrease that line by nearly 10,000 this year, so that one went down. Then repairs and maintenance, I merged that. Postage, we left that one at 50 again. It's one we rarely ever use, but it's nice to have that in there just in case. The travel budget, I actually decreased a little bit, and I put that into the education budget, because I've got some certifications coming up. I want to get my new systems public safety analysis person trained on. So I just changed that. They were last year 2,000 and 1,500. I just flip-flopped those values there. We're still maintaining CBT nuggets. My guys really like that. I will mention, the network administrator line on the top in the A budget has been budgeted high, but not been utilized the last 2 years, because we were waiting for him, that position, to finish a certification. That certification has been finished. So we need to get the paperwork signed with HR. He will absorb that full salary line, just so you guys know. I put a timeline on it. If it wasn't gonna happen this year, I wasn't gonna budget for it again. So that's been completed, which is great news, actually.
We appreciate that process too.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great.
Yep.
It took a lot longer than we expected, but as you know, that position has a wide bunch of stuff to do, and it just was when the time could fit together. So it's fit together, and I'm pretty happy with that. That's another reason that I don't feel we need to replace that position we're losing, because the team is really rounding out.
So what is CBT Nuggets?
CBT Nuggets, computer-based training nuggets. It's a website.
Store down here on
Oh, no.
CBT Nuggets, right?
That's right. Isn't there? I don't think it's CBT. I think it's CBX or something. But anyway, yeah,
You'll
not
have to tell us.
not that.
Cannabis.
Not that nugget, not related to that. That's actually the site that the programmer was able to, or the network administrator was able to finish the certifications using that site. So
Okay.
that's a great site, and we've offered that to other people who've wanted to use it. We just have one login for it, but if other departments have asked to be able to use it for a Excel training or a PowerPoint training, we've offered it in the past, so it's pretty good. Okay, 474 telephone. This one severely under budgeted last year, and I don't think I was clear enough when I told the county that we, as IT, were going to absorb all telephone costs. What I meant to say by that was that we were going to absorb all telephone costs for the desktop telephones. Unfortunately, every single department basically changed the billing and sent their bills to me, and I've been paying them. This year, we're going to have the money in there, but that increase, about $7,500 increase, is the difference in those other departments. Now, we've eliminated a lot of lines as well. We've eliminated fax lines, we've eliminated landlines at McCammon in lieu of cell phone stuff, but that is, the sheriff's department gave us their whole bill, and we found that Road and Bridge had like a $300 a month bill, so we
wonder their budget's dropped.
we didn't set out to absorb everything like we did with the maintenance budget, but we did, and we'll be fine this year. That's the increase for that, though.
Well, I think it's a better deal to have it all under one envelope or umbrella, honestly, and keep track of it a little better.
Yeah, and it also stops. We know we've stopped for auditing the itemization that they've got to do. We've changed these plans to blanket plans that they don't have to worry about how much long distance they spend. We used to separate that out and bill it back to every department. We've really consolidated a lot. But the truth is, telephone service is very cheap. It's gone up. I mean, and the real thing is, though, overall, we're actually saving money overall, even though it doesn't look like it when you lump it all together. But telephone maintenance plan, I was able to get BPS to agree to not raise that price again this year, so that's just your standard $37,000. We're coming up on year 7 of that equipment. I do not have plans. I know that a few different vendors have come to purchasing and spoken with purchasing about it's time to replace that equipment. I don't feel that this equipment is ready to be replaced. We've been given assurances by BPS that we've got at a minimum 5+ more years of hardware support and possibly longer. I'm just extending that. The phone systems work really well, and that maintenance does cover the entire county, including the sheriff's office. We actually merged that last year. I did add a line for uniforms and clothing allowance. I would like to purchase some shirts for our new position. They're not too big a deal, just $150 in there. Contract services and internet, that stays the same. I was able to get, as you know, we're on that. We're in year, we've got 4 more years +1 of the pricing on our internet contract. And that also includes the fiber ring maintenance for our links local. And then I think that's it. Now, we do have 3 capital outlay requests. Number 1 is the VMware host replacement. That one for that Dell server, basically about 4 years ago, with some additional money we had, the clerk's office, you replaced 3 of our 4 servers. This is the 4th one. It's about to roll off of hardware maintenance this year, so it kind of interleaves us if we replace it this year. Everything else is still in maintenance. It's still good. We've got 3+ more years on that stuff. It'll just bring that one host up. The next one, that is 44,533. My guys did a evaluation. As you know, 3 years ago, we put into place a idea where we would go on a kind of a rolling 5 to 8 year timeline on PC replacements, and we replaced approximately 1/3 of all the county computers. This list that they worked through includes about 40 additional computers that have been, at this point now, 3 years later, they're ready to be replaced. So that is the refresh. That's that biggest ask. And then the last one on there is a NAS replacement for the sheriff's department, which is it's just a server that they're using to store images on. That's really the lowest priority out of those. And if we needed to shave that down, I would recommend we shave out of the computer PC replacement rather than that VM host replacement. I think that's the most critical, because it's going to be out of hardware warranty in November this year. So
You're talking about shaving down out of the desktop plus laptop
correct.
section?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. There's 45 desktops and 9 laptops. That would basically be, as we talked about this like 3 years ago, we had planned to replace somewhere between 30 and 40 PCs a year, but we didn't replace any for the last 2 years except piecemeal, as departments needed them. This year, we just went back and re-audited everything that's not Windows 11 capable, as Windows 10 will be end of life October of next year in 2025. We'd like to pre-stage those and get them done, so.
And we can use one-time monies for all of those items, so it should not affect.
This won't affect the taxpayer portion of
We could use some.
What's the one-time monies we're gonna use, like PILT or something?
I think that's what we used PILT to replace those servers, the last.
Okay.
But we've got general fund reserves that we could potentially use for that as well.
So this budget from the taxpayer ask portion actually goes down.
Oh, yeah, because
Quite
of the
a bit.
position.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
So far, he's my favorite presenter.
hey, I'm going on 3 years of decreasing these budgets. Every year I've been trying to cut these down because I think that when we look at the stuff holistically, we could just do things smarter than we have in some cases, and finding little things to shave here and there. Like, for example, the switch between Sophos and Sentinel-1. When we got Sophos, we had no choice. That was what we went with, and it was great. But they've increased their prices year over year, and the service and the product has not increased. So we started looking at alternatives, and a lot of counties are moving to this Sentinel-1. It's about 20% cheaper on the year-over-year cost, and it's a better product overall. So just by being open to looking at that stuff, I think we were able to shave these budgets pretty well. So that's it for IT.
So along that line,
Yeah, I was gonna say questions for IT.
my goal is a 3% increase on salaries.
Oh, okay, excellent. Yeah, I did include 2 one-step increases on there. I got a couple positions that are grade maxed. They just don't have anywhere to go. And then I have a couple positions that are, one's brand new, and then the other one is going to get the jump from completing the career development plan, so.
Okay, thank you.
Outstanding. Okay, so
What
that's,
page is 911 on?
80.
yeah, 180425 is 911. This one's really straightforward.
Hang on one sec, somebody gets there.
This one has no A budget at all in it.
Okay, you're good.
Okay, so in the 911 budget, basically, I was also able to reduce this one about 1.4% overall. I moved a little bit of stuff around. There is one correction to be made on this, the lease payments. I've got 4 out of 5. That's actually 5 out of 5. This year is 5 out of 5. so that PPD console payment, this budget cycle will be the last one. We actually looked at that and changed around so that we can use the reserves from next year to purchase that Spillman upgrade. But that's for next year's budget. So I'll just go down through this list the same. 424, we merged that one last year for PSAP consumables and upgrades. That number's slightly high, but we find that we have, when people go in to start doing these projects, we end up having to get new keyboards, new runs of wire run from the City of Pocatello's IT room is not where the dispatch center is. So we've had to pay for stuff like that, cabling and such. So I left that one at 10,000. Last year I was actually able to use that to replace all the computers in dispatch because we didn't run through it all. Hostess and supplies, I left that. I actually think I increased that by $100. I find that as we are now hosting Digby meetings on a regular basis and getting visits by the state, it's nice to have that when the state people come over and we go out and have a bit of lunch time and talk strategy with those guys, especially doing the IPSCC stuff. 210 on software support for Vesta, Flex, Veeam, and VMware. With the changes to the Flex system upcoming, that number stayed the same. It's not going up or down. Postage, I left that at 50 just in case we end up making notifications from IPSCC changes to our telco providers, which we've done in the past. I did increase the travel budget on that one because I'd like to actually go to the Motorola Trunk Users Group meetings in Seattle next year. I'm a voting member on that board, and I'd like to be there for that because we have some pretty significant input. I think we're not getting. I also want to include our new public safety analyst, the ability to go to the Motorola Summit next year as well. So I increased that one by 1,000.
Well, I just want to interrupt you for a second here. Jeff, I wasn't able to go to the Spillman meeting last week, and Jeff said how well you represented us.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. So when you go to these conferences and stuff, I have no problem with that. You represent us very, very well as Bannock County.
Oh, I really appreciate that. That's great feedback, and that's this is the section of my job that's not like this stuff. The IT stuff, I've done it for so long. This is the stuff I'm fascinated by, and I like really like getting into it and learning it and figuring out, because much like this, if we do things a little different in this world, we have more money to spend and better ways to spend it. So the next line down, I did roll together. I know that we've had two lines that are the same number. We were separating out electricity service for our radio tower sites. I combined those into one line. I did plan for a 2% Idaho Power increase. Rocky Mountain Power did not make notification that we'd have an increase, but I just did 2% overall because I feel that's probably pretty close. The US West line fee, EPN, and subscriber, I kept this the same. Number one, our camel lines are the same price no matter what. But I do have some news. We have just about finished a radio purge list. We have 1,480 radios in the county that we pay a $67 per radio subscriber fee on. I went through and over the last year, and it's been a lot of work to call in every radio because these guys, they just don't remember where they are. We're going to be able to decrease that by nearly 250 radios. I've been asked to hold off on doing that until the end of July to make sure all the volunteer fire departments have enough time to do it, but that's nearly a $15,000 savings right there. I did not take it out of this yet because I want to make sure it happens before we decrease it. But that should be a pretty good surplus. We found a lot of radios that are in people's glove boxes that don't work anymore, yet we're paying for them. So we want to decrease that. Next, a cellular telephone. I actually put this one back in. We didn't have this before. Well, I take that back. Last year we didn't budget for it. The year before we had it budgeted, and what we were using that money for was to pay for detectives' phones and hostage negotiation phones. The Sheriff's Department took that over, but what we've done instead is we've purchased FirstNet Cradle Points to use as camera servers in our towers. And we're going to be installing cameras inside the towers to monitor people coming up to the radio towers. They don't all have fences, so we'd like to have some kind of video on them. Right now, Chinese Peak has a fence, but Sedgwick doesn't, and Egan does. Sort of has a fence that you can just walk over the top of it. But so that I put that line back in there to pay for those Cradle Points to be able to get the camera view back to the county. Department of Lands fee, kept that one the same. That's for our BLM lease fee and our rent on the Kinport site. Let's see, then lease payments 4 out of 5 on the PPD console. I decreased that by 5,000 because the payment's actually only 137,500. We were budgeting higher because we were using portion of that to pay for those lease payments, but we've rolled them together, so we're not doing that. Maintenance for Motorola. So this is the big one that normally goes up 7% year over year. This year, because of the decrease on the 7% on Flex, it averaged out to a 5% increase for Vesta. We're also working on getting a 5-county Vesta grant done. Bear Lake County has committed to being connected to us as host and remote. So I'm going to be working on this month a 5-county grant from IPSCC, which I kind of anticipate getting. That will cover the upgrades on all that stuff. It'll bring us, Power County, Bingham and Caribou are already up to speed, and it will connect Bear Lake County. So that 5-county system will be back at year 0, 7+ years out before we have to look at that again. So. Then maintenance general, 75,000. I increased that one last year as well. Once again, that's one of these ones where generators go bad and we've had to replace propane tanks. The biggest expense on that one will be this year, the Pocatello Police Department uninterruptible power supply needs to be replaced. So I left that one at 75,000. And then on the administration fee, I just put that in a placeholder. It's been about 45 to 48,000 year over year, so I just put 48,000 placeholder. But again, I was able to decrease that budget slightly by about $10,000 overall. And one other great thing, we were able to get Motorola. So the consoles that we replaced at PPD, as part of the software assurance upgrade, we were able to get them to replace those 2 consoles at Chubbuck at no cost, because we're in the middle of doing the SUA with the PPD ones. So that's about $118,000 worth of stuff that they were like, yeah, we'll replace those, because Chubbuck's been trying to add a 3rd position and they can't without a new console. So that's 911. Any questions on that one?
And these are all fee-based.
Yeah, no property taxes on this one. And if the stuff happens with IPSCC the way we're looking, this revenue should increase a lot, hopefully. So.
Looks
Okay.
good. Looks good.
Anything?
Straightforward?
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much for the feedback. I'm looking forward to more stuff we can consolidate. Better it gets for everybody. Yeah.